Oh my God, is all I have to say to begin this episode number one of the Light Warrior Unleashed podcast. And this episode is going to be a solo episode in connection with power. And I am just so excited to step into this wheelhouse and realm with you. And this episode, I want to kind of define a couple of the things that we're going to walk through in this experience as this podcast keeps building, keeps getting out, keeps creating momentum, and the vibration in which we are creating a movement. So the term light warrior is somebody that is stepping into their light to literally transcend narratives of conformity, to transcend and open up the truth, to bring the truth to light, to disrupt the systems holding us back, to literally amplify our availability for potency and power in this world. Now, when I say power, I do not mean like control over others. When I say power, I mean a lit up energy inside of you to take ownership of who you are, to step into your purity of light, to own your pathway, to own your truth, to be who you are and remember the potency in which you play. And most of us have forgotten about this. And as I've been watching this movement start to happen in the world, I'm watching it happen with clients. I'm watching it happen in programs. I'm watching it happen in the way I show up on social media and how people are showing up on social media. The Light Warrior Unleashed movement is happening. We're starting to own our purity of light. We're starting to step into our power and understand what our power is. We're starting to feel this like juicy energy moving through us, and it's allowing us to finally remember who the fuck we are. And I don't know about you, but I grew up in the early 80s. And at the time, obviously, if you remember back, if you are from that era or before that era, or some of you have no reference point to that era at all, but we moved in an energy vibration of authenticity, let's say. We didn't watch a lot of TV as kids. We were outside playing and exploring and being in nature and moving through, dancing and playing sports and moving that energy through. And I think it was like 9 years old when I finally got my first like DVD, and it was Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So whatever year that came out, that was the year I got. I don't even remember if I was 9, 10, 12. I'm not even sure. A lot of my friends had movies at their place, so I would go over to their house sometimes and watch movies. But I really remember this purity of energy that when I was a kid, I owned. I was a rebellion as a kid. I literally, I remember I used to go pick the crab apples off of my neighbor's tree and come home and make cinnamon apples and then go back out and sell the cinnamon apples to my neighbor with whom I actually picked the apples off of his tree. I was that kind of kid, but I owned that purity of light within me. I owned that rebellion nature. I owned that space in my world. And for years, I continued to own it until I went to school. And then I started to get conformed in a box that the education system put me in. And then my parents were like, you can't be this expressive, or you can't be this, or all that stuff that they were taught that we shouldn't be. So that started to yield on me. And then I met friends who had certain belief systems that then started to impart things on me. And we moved through this ebb and flow in our life, until one day where some of us busted open the ceiling in connection with what was possible. We said, enough is enough. Fuck this shit. I'm not doing it anymore. And I'm going to start to own my truth. Now, it took me up until the age of 28 to really understand what that meant. Now, I was a rebellion in my teenage years and in my early 20s, don't get me wrong, but I rebelled in a way that was outside of my power. I rebelled in a way for attention. I rebelled in a way to be heard. I rebelled in a way that was diminishing of my light and in conformity still, but in a rebellion type of energy. Now, you may understand what that means. And if you don't understand what it means, is I rebelled with destruction instead of amplification. And both of those have a different vibration. When we rebel in amplification, we shine a light on the things that no longer work, and we can pull power into us and step into that space. When we rebel in destruction, we're tearing shit apart, we're self-sabotaging, we're moving stuff through because it's in pure light. impurity in the light, right? It's more in the shadow of the darkness because we're being driven by an emotion we haven't healed. The emotion of I'm unworthy, the emotion of I'm not being seen, the emotion of I'm not enough, whatever it is that you're feeling and vibing. And if you look back on your life, I can guarantee you that that has happened for you. I can guarantee you that you've stepped in some way, shape, or form, diminished your light, conformed, accepted life as it was, potentially rebelled against a system that no longer served you, and you were literally in a zone of not being your authentic self. However, there were pieces that started to show up, right? There was pieces that started to move within you. There was this piece of almost truth pulsing up your body, pulsing into your veins, moving through you in this experience. And you started to hear it. And I call it the whisper. You started to hear that whisper. You started to hear it coming in, and you started to feel it then in your body. And then you started to dream about it, right? And then you started to move some stuff through. You started to see it every day. You're out running. You started to see it. You saw a billboard while you were driving. You kept thinking about it and thinking about it until one day you made a decision to step in whatever way that was, to dismantle that thing that was holding you back from whatever it was holding you back from. So we call this ownership of power. You took your power back. You left the guy. You closed the deal. You created a boundary. You spoke your truth. You moved through a certain level of energy, right? Whatever it was for you, you took your power back. We're now at a movement of time where the light warriors are being unleashed in their shackles to take back their power of truth, who you really are, what you're meant to do, the things you're meant to serve in, the impact you're meant to make in the world, the energy you're meant to embody. And all the other shit that you've believed in the past is being dismantled and deconstructed right now. And some of you, it's being torn right open inside of you to be able to move through into this new energy. And some of you are feeling it in shadow and darkness. We're going to talk a lot about this on our podcast, on this podcast, because of the fact that it is an imperative piece to the light warrior journey. We're going to talk about potency of energy. We're going to talk about courage and strength and owning your truth. Every week, we're going to have guests on. I'm going to do a solo episode every week too, to merge energy together, to bring it together. But this really is about a revolution, taking back our power, taking it back, reclaiming it, remembering it, right? So something happens in this process. So super spiritual. I do a lot of channeling work. I'm way out there spiritually. I'm way out there. I see embodiments of people. I talk to spirits all the time. I work in that realm. And as you continue on this pathway with me on this podcast, you're going to start to hear me openly speak about stuff like this, openly speak about light language and activation of mystic school and all the other juiciness that I talk within. And that is truth that most of us have never heard because it's been literally hidden from us as a collective. And we are in a time right now that the truth is coming out in all ways. We're seeing it happen in the world. We're going to talk about current events. We're going to bring in the truth seekers, and we're going to bring in the people speaking truth, and those that have gotten banned from Instagram because they've been speaking truth, and those in the field that are literally the conspiracy theorists are going to come on. We're going to talk about all the things in connection with being a light warrior. Because as we own our light, we go to war within ourselves first, to battle the war within us, to battle our own truth, to battle all the shame and all the guilt and all the shit that we've been through. We go through the battle first within, and we see then the battle happening outward. We see the battle out there in the light. We see the battle happening in the earth. We see the duality showing up in all of these conversations. Diminishing of power. They don't want you to know and understand your intuition. They don't want you to step into your purity of light. They don't want you to feel and know what they've been fucking doing for years and years and centuries on this earth. It's all coming out. So the light warrior path is first an inward one. It's about an ownership of your truth and power. And then owning the pathway you're meant to be on. What does your light feel like in the world? What are you meant to do? How are you dismantling the system? How are you shining a light into the world? How are you empowering people to move through their shit, to take ownership, to get through, to move that through? We're talking about all of this on this podcast. And I finally feel like I'm in a space that I am ready to own. And I've been owning my revolution inside of me for a long time, And the client work I do and the programs I do, we're dismantling it all the time. But I'm finally ready to fully embody and step into this pathway of speaking this into the world, of literally moving a movement through in the world. And if you feel connected to the Light Warrior movement, join me on Instagram. I'm pushing boundaries all the time. Literally, Instagram is like taking me down. Like they're trying to shadow ban me. They're making me lose followers, all the stuff. And you know what I'm doing? I'm turning up the heat because of the fact that if they're going to do that and try to diminish my light, I need to get stronger. And this podcast was coming in hot. It was like, it's time. And I'm like, oh my God, do I have enough time to support this right now? Yes, we will make time to support it because this mission and movement is needed. Your power, my friend, is needed in the world. It's time for you to literally shine brightly. It's time for you to own all the parts of you, the darkness in you, the light in you. It's time for you to take responsibility for that, to literally take the ownership needed for you to amplify and move through. So this is episode 1, setting the tone. So like I said, I'm going to do 1 solo episode a week. I'm going to have guests on every single week. If there's people that you know that vibrate in this light that you would love to see me talk to in connection with this, please send me a DM on Instagram. You can go to the show notes. You'll find my Instagram handle, as well as any other things that I talk about. Let's say we're talking about books or movements or videos or someone doing this. We will put all the links in the show notes. We will give you everything. But I also want to start this collective. I want to start this movement of energy within the collective field. So owning yourself. You have questions about things, throw it into my Instagram DMs. I want to chat with you. I'm also going to be doing some Q&A stuff. So if there's blocks you're having and movement, like things that you're having drop in, I want to know about them and I want to serve you in this space because this really is an acceleration of light. It's talking about the things that are unleashing us from the shackles of the conformity. And my job in this world is to break down barriers in all ways and to literally align people in their light. That's my job. Like that, I know that's my job. That's my job. So I am so excited to serve you this way. I'm so excited to step in. We will be doing videos of these as well, so you can get them on YouTube. This will be all over the place. And if you're on Spotify one day, or you can get it in an Apple, podcast, wherever you listen, we're going to make it available as far and wide as we can, and just holding space for us in a movement as we move forward. And I just want to say how grateful I am to be on this journey with you and to be expanding alongside you in this vibration of truth. And I cannot wait to serve you in the first episode with our first guest coming out later this week and holding space for that. Because trust me, guys, the people that are coming on that are already in alignment with this message are going to blow some shit up. Like they're literally going to blow the top off of conversations in large dynamics in the world. Like I'm talking movements in the medical system. I'm talking about destruction in like the space of masculine strength. And how do we get men stepping back into their primal energy? How do we keep unearthing the shadow dynamic side and step into this volume of power within us? Guys, we got some amazing, amazing guests coming up. So if you're feeling this, subscribe to the podcast. If you're feeling this information, do a review. Whatever you got to do in order to help us continue to escalate this would be amazing. So I'm just going to send you some love and light, and most of all, courage today and every day to keep stepping into your path. And I'll see you guys in the next episode soon. Have a great day.